All right, thanks, Pat. I'm here now to talk about really just a little bit further in terms of what Pat was elaborating on, covering our strategy, and just to give you some practical customer examples of what some folks are seeing out in the field. Just for the sake of introduction, I'm Chris Wolf. I'm the Americas CTO. I spend over half of my time meeting with various IT leaders across all of our customer segments and understanding what they really need out of our technology, and then making sure that our engineering teams are doing the right things to make sure that all of your needs are being met when you need them. Now, just to give you a couple of examples to kick some things off here, Nike's a great example of a traditional manufacturing company that's really transitioning their business now, building it around software. Nike has a massive VMware OpenStack deployment that they had running in a matter of weeks, and now they're very quickly delivering VMs in a matter of minutes to software developers. So this is one example. You look at other organizations like GE. GE is focusing on planes, trains, very traditional manufacturer, but they see themselves as a software company first. So they're bringing a lot of agility into software because it allows them to innovate faster. It allows them to take more risks as an engineering company, to do simulations and modeling at a greater pace, and that's what's allowing them to maintain a competitive advantage. You look at other organizations like General Motors. This is one of the more exciting areas of IT innovation today. And one way to think about innovation in a car is think about phones. Go back and look at your iPhone as an example. Prior to the iPhone, what did you have? I mean, even on a smartphone, you might have done email, you might have done just phone calls, right? But really very little other than that. And when the iPhone came along, what did the iPhone give you? It gave you email and it let you do phone calls. And some would argue not even very well. But the real power of the iPhone wasn't what Apple could see, but it was about unlocking a platform that would allow any third party to write an app that can provide a different experience on the phone. So if we think about cars, the same thing is happening here, where car manufacturers are saying, you know what, this isn't just a car, it's an application platform. Now anyone can come along and write an application that can change the driver or passenger's experience in an automobile. So this is another area where we're heading, and to me that's pretty exciting. It also creates new opportunities in terms of managing applications on those vehicles, as well as making sure that those applications are secure. Obviously a car is a pretty deadly personal device, or it certainly can be, so we want to make sure that there's no rogue application or experience that's going to impact anything. The bottom line here is that we see a tremendous amount of innovation. VMware has been a big part of this innovation for some time, starting with server virtualization in 2000. This is when I was just talking with some folks earlier today. The first virtualization presentation I had done personally was in 2001, and 8 people showed up for it. So we've certainly come a long way since then. You look at the software-defined data center in 2011, and what we've been driving towards this year now is the software-defined business. Really, we're about connecting business users to applications and content, making that easy, meeting those users on their terms, making sure that they're able to access those applications from the device of choice, as well as empowering our engineers and our software developers to be able to do things with a far greater efficiency than they've ever been able to do in the past. So really, when we start thinking about just organizations in general, we all need to think and act like a software company. It's about leveraging technology to be closer to your customers. Another example, I was attending a New Year's party in my neighborhood. My neighbor is the chief financial officer of a New Jersey area hospital chain. And in his case, he didn't want to just talk to me about New Year's festivities, but he's like, hey, I got this problem here. There's this company called CVS that's now offering healthcare services. So we're seeing a financial impact on our hospitals because we get less walk-in traffic because a pharmacy is now becoming a healthcare company. So his thoughts were around how do they now leverage technology to be able to do things differently, to have a closer experience and have more intimacy with folks that want to go to either their hospital or some of their other branch locations. So this is really impacting every industry. We're looking to have more agile and lean processes, have more web-scale IT and flexibility. I need to be able to change my mind mid-course. I can't make some massive IT technology investment and then simply change my mind and say, well, you know what, I've already gone down this path, let me just ride it out until the very end. No, sometimes I might say, you know what, this is not the right technology decision. I thought it was right at the time. How can I pivot quickly and do something even better while preserving the investment that I already have? Being able to continuously improve the software that I have, being able to provide automation and self-service. So things are happening at a very rapid pace, and that's freeing businesses to innovate at a much more rapid pace too. And these are things that many of the CIOs that I meet with, they simply see as table stakes. So this isn't something that, when I talk about like highly automated agile IT, this isn't even becoming a nice to have over the next few years. If you're not doing these things, you're simply not going to be a competitive business anymore. You're just not moving at the same rate as your competitors. Now, I wanted to talk about the VMware future here as we see this evolve in reference to really 4 key business priorities. It starts with creating exceptional experiences and being sure that you can empower the mobile user. We want to be able to differentiate with data and applications and being able to modernize those applications and make them really get closer to customers, be able to run across multiple clouds, having security across those environments as well. We want to be able to respond instantly to opportunities and future-proof our cloud. So again, if I need to start running workloads on different clouds because of global expansion and maybe my preferred provider is not in certain countries, how can I do that? How can I do that very quickly? And when I'm doing all this, how do I safeguard some of the investments I've already made around management, around tooling and processes? Some of the skills I already have. We don't want to just bring in all new people just to solve some of these problems. These are things that we can all grow and learn and do together. So let's start with creating exceptional experiences. You look at the traditional Windows web and mobile world that we had in the past, and normally you still see this today. We have Windows administrator and PC lifecycle management teams. We have mobile admins that might have come out of the BlackBerry group as an example. And when you look at web applications, for many organizations today, that's still the Wild West. There's still not a lot of centralization around how we do this. But the core business problem that we're solving is connecting people to applications and content. We shouldn't be structuring IT architectural decisions and technology solutions specifically around how we've done things in the past. There's a real opportunity here to do things differently. At VMware, we see that with our Workspace ONE platform. So this gives you a very simple way, secure way to provision your applications and your content to end users. This is managing your mobile applications, providing consistent brokering, and most importantly, this is providing consistent policy so that now when I'm making policy decisions, as an example, or setting policy constraints on particular user segments or applications, I have a central and consistent way to do and enforce that. And that's a really big deal because today all of those things are fragmented depending on the type of application you're trying to deliver. It should be based simply on a problem that you're trying to solve. Now we look at some of the strategic features here in terms of where we've gone with Workspace ONE. We're providing a consumer-grade self-service access. So I can get my cloud apps, my web apps, my mobile applications, my Windows applications, being able to use any device supporting BYOD, corporate-owned, physical devices, being able to provide secure containers around those applications. And you look at things like the integration work that we've done across AirWatch and NSX. Imagine a world where I can take an encrypted tunnel all the way from a mobile application to a server application instance in a data center or cloud. That's the level of granularity we're working to provide you from a security perspective. And again, these are just things that have not been possible in the world before virtualization. Providing real-time application delivery and automation around that, another really big deal. Having the capability to spin up desktops in a matter of seconds for end users using our instant clone technology. That's what you see here in a lot of the major innovations that we've achieved here. So even new email and content applications, having compliance checks. Another big one that we're all now using personally inside VMware is single sign-on and a one-touch mobile single sign-on. Think about your average experience. A lot of times when I'm looking at doing some business work on, say, a mobile device, all right, I open my application. Okay, fine, I have to put in my RSA token. Great. All right, I'm trying to get something done. Okay, now for my next step, I need to open another application. Oh, wait, I have to put in my RSA token again? Oh, forget it. It's too hard. I'll just go ahead and deal with this when I get back to my desk. In reality, to just put in that token a second time, it probably would have taken 15 seconds. But a lot of us, we just see that extra step is just like, all right, forget it. I've already done it once. I just don't feel like doing it again. And it's just the principle of it. So just those little improvements that you can achieve through single sign-on and just having that seamless experience across all of your mobile applications, that's a really big deal. And that's why we're seeing so much interest in our Identity Manager product. Now you look at Horizon 7, and we have lots of sessions on this today. You're seeing significant advances here too. So like I said, those smart policies with single sign-on across Windows, web, and mobile. Having that integrated app and user management platform. Again, this is a really big deal. We're seeing a lot of innovation here in the industry, and people are just tired of that traditional PC lifecycle management experience and tool set. It's becoming harder, it's more cumbersome, it's more complex. I still have all these little issues I have to troubleshoot with applications. And again, it's a silo tool set at best as well. So having that integrated platform where I'm managing my Windows apps, my web apps, my mobile applications, enforcing policy across them, having smarter application packaging with app volumes, this is giving you a lot of flexibility, not to mention all of the great work we've done even on the protocol side, including significant advancements in our Blast Extreme protocol. Now just to give you another practical example, take a look at Coca-Cola. I'm sure you've seen these machines before. So you walk into a Five Guys or maybe a movie theater or somewhere else, and you have this great Coke machine, and it always seems to know what you like, and I can customize my soda experience, and it's pretty awesome. But there's other things that happen behind the scenes here that you may not realize. Like what happens when the machine runs out of an ingredient? Well, that user interface is actually dynamically changing the menu options depending on what ingredients are still available. And this is happening because this is actually being managed on the back end by AirWatch technology. So we're leveraging AirWatch across 30,000 smart drink dispensers globally today. And we're using this technology in other types of IoT scenarios as well. So you're seeing a way to provide lots of flexibility from an application management perspective and lots of customization through these solutions. So more on that as you'll see us continuing to evolve, not just in traditional end-user computing devices, but lots of smart devices and IoT devices as well. So we talked a little bit about mobile and applications. We're really looking to differentiate with data and applications because ultimately we're all faced with moving at a faster pace. It doesn't matter whether you're in manufacturing or healthcare or even public sector services, you're still being pressed to do a lot more on the innovation side and to do this often with fewer resources. So this is where automation becomes very critical. But at the same time, any automation that I do or any advancements I have to do need to be secure and safe. So what's VMware doing about all of this? First we're looking to continue to deliver on agile API-driven infrastructure. You look at what developers often want. It's really about providing that experience where I'm providing those developers an API that gives them very simple access. We have a significant amount of customers that have made investments in VMware integrated OpenStack. So when you think about even placing some of these bets around more integrated platforms and having more modular IT architectures, giving them those consistent, multi-tenant, well-documented OpenStack APIs provides a great way to do IaaS level integration. And I'll have even more on that in a little bit. Managing containerized applications as well as providing that flexibility to deploy to any cloud. We have a lot of customers using vRealize automation to do that, and also to provide consistent application deployment blueprints that are also multi-cloud. So again, this gives you a very consistent deployment models and consistent way to manage. Now that all said, I've been talking pretty fast in terms of innovation and where we're going, but at the same time, it's often good to take a pause button and step back and think about what type of work we're doing, and is it commodity type of work in the sense that it's things that everybody has to do, or is it truly providing business differentiation and business value? And when you step back and say, okay, you know what, am I doing something that every business in the world has to do, then ask yourself, is that really the best way to spend my time? I'll give you an example. If I think about programmatic, agile, highly available, programmatic compute, network, storage, and security services. Everybody has to do these things. That's just the nature of the business to move fast. It doesn't matter if I'm talking about platform as a service or infrastructure as a service, traditional applications, cloud, etc. Just programmatic infrastructure underneath any application platform is just something that I need to have. And again, PaaS doesn't make that go away. I still need programmatic networking. The applications are still talking over a network, so these things still have to happen. But now you have to ask yourself this question. If every business in the world needs fast, agile, programmatic, compute, network, storage, and security, and these are just expected to be in the game and to be competitive, then why are you trying to build your own custom version of that? What's the value? What's the business value in customizing? I would argue that there's not a lot there. Now, to put this in another context, think about this question. Where did Intel decide to put the memory slots on its latest motherboard? Now think about what the right answer is to this question. Don't overthink this. Now look, here's an answer. But this is not the right answer. I don't really care where the memory slots are. The right answer is who cares? When I buy a Intel server, I don't care, nor do I have an opinion where Intel puts the memory slots, where the processors go, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. Where RAM sits, how I connect, so what? At the same time, I don't feel locked into a server. I have industry standard interfaces like USB or Ethernet or PCIe. They give me all the lock-in avoidance that I need. And it's not hard to switch server vendors. So I'm not buying a server based on some minutia details of how Intel is configuring it. I'm buying based on cost, SLA, and the support relationship I have with the vendor. If I want to make any switches, such as going from, say, HP to Dell, it's relatively painless to do. Again, because I just see commodity x86 as a very simple standard. So now think about this in the context of the software-defined data center. VMware, we believe we can do for the data center what Intel has done for servers, where over time, I'm not going to care so much about how a server and storage are talking to each other. Now granted, you have specialized applications that are very sensitive and very performance intensive, and I'm always going to care for those. But general purpose applications, 80% of my workloads, I don't have to have some specific granularity that I dictate on infrastructure. Look at public cloud consumption and all the applications being deployed there. Developers are making decisions based on things like sizing and SLA and cost. They're not making decisions or even dictating to a service provider what the infrastructure needs to look like. And these are becoming more modular. And again, I can do this kind of work, but again, if it's not providing business value or business differentiation, then start to ask yourself, why am I? Now you might say, okay, sure, this sounds like a pretty big VMware lock-in play. And you could have a point there. But the key to making this all work and being more modular is to also be a great participant in terms of open standards and open source. So if I want to do IaaS level integration with these types of solutions, well, guess what? We have VMware Integrated OpenStack and a rich set of OpenStack APIs. If I want to do PaaS level integration, I can look at Cloud Foundry or Docker APIs. I can abstract all this and do lots of automation with centralized blueprints as well using vRealize automation. So there's lots of great things that we can do here. Even in the case of OpenStack, if I want to do performance management, well, guess what? That's also supported in VROps. Logging is also supported in Log Insights. So we have lots of innovations here that is allowing you to simply use these modular architectures, use your existing investments that you already have in management, and since you're having this open source API layer above modular software-defined infrastructure stacks, well, guess what? If VMware is not winning your business on merit, then you can simply go somewhere else. And it's not going to be very hard to switch. Again, almost as simple as switching server vendors as we move forward. So ultimately what I'm getting at here is this. It's hyper-converged software. We're seeing a lot of traction here, a lot of organizations saying, you know what, I don't need to be racking and stacking servers and storage and networking components. Not a lot of business value there anymore. If I go with hyper-converged solutions, I can get pretty significant performance. I can get much reduced costs. Again, and the people that are doing this, again, we're not out to take jobs away here. What we're trying to do is free your time to focus on more important things. Instead of thinking about just storage integration, what about storage and data management, right? And how I'm actually keeping storage available, perhaps across multiple data centers or multiple clouds. So taking some of the mundane off your plate is just going to free you to focus on some of the more important things. This can give you lots of different ways to deploy as well, including vSAN ready nodes as an example. And you see lots of partners here that are participating in this ecosystem. Using various engineered appliances as well, leveraging virtual SAN and vSAN and vCenter. And then finally using Evo SDDC. So this is our hyper-converged infrastructure solution that allows you just to roll in an entire rack and just get going immediately. So this gives you that entire virtualized experience, giving you compute, network, storage, security, all rolled into one. So I can get those benefits of network automation and security using NSX as an example. Immediately, being able to do this within minutes and start running either lab environments or new applications on this in a very simple modular way. Now, speaking of virtual SAN, this is an area that we've seen quite a bit, and Pat alluded to this earlier, but with virtual SAN 6.2, we've seen a significant leap forward in terms of the feature sets and capabilities that we have. So that includes data deduplication and encryption. This is also including quality of service capabilities, more performance and capacity monitoring baked in as well. So now there's really not an application that's not ready. We're seeing lots of good traction here publicly and in the press and also in our customer base that are like, yeah, you know what, vSAN is good enough for just about all of my workloads today. And being in that category, it means I'm going to be saving lots of money at the same time. Now we see organizations like Chicago Tribune as well and Tribune Media Corp being able to leverage the full benefits of the SADC stack where they are operating in minutes and seconds. I mean, this is a great quote from David Giambruno, who's their Senior Vice President and CIO at Tribune Media. And this is just an example of when a company can go all in with SADC, what's possible. Again, he's getting economies of scale that rivals any public cloud service provider in terms of cost and performance. And again, this is all running on a VMware-based private cloud. Now, what we saw with private clouds early on was lots of very complex infrastructures where, the early days of private cloud, we were trying to feel our way through. It's normal. We're human. We were doing things like, okay, let's just, survey our teams. Everybody pick their favorite technology and let's try to build our own custom orchestration solution above it. That was very difficult to deploy. It's been very difficult to patch and maintain. And people often didn't get the performance that they were looking for in the early days, and they weren't getting the costs. But you move forward to today, and we're seeing significant changes there in terms of things like reduced provision times, as much as 97%. We're seeing things like reducing costs as well. That can go down as much as 80%. We have customers running VMs at a rate of $20 per VM per month. Again, that can rival any public cloud. But to do these things, you have to go all in. You have to make very smart bets. So you know what? I'm not going to buy the most high-end features that I need and try to plumb together my own private cloud. Let me be more integrated. Let me be more modular. Let me be more hyper-converged. And I can start to achieve some of these things. And again, it's okay to place those bets as long as you have vendors like VMware that are committed to having open standards and open APIs above and around that stack. So again, it's just like switching out servers. This should be the type of infrastructure solutions that you're really looking to leverage now going forward. All right, now when we think about private clouds, there's a reason that folks had some challenges early on. One of the best quotes I heard came last summer from an early private cloud organization. They're actually a pretty major software as a service provider today. And they said their software engineers told them, we asked for infrastructure as a service, and what you really gave us was infrastructure as a ticket. You gave us IAT instead of IaaS. And the IT team, they took it pretty personally, like, oh, that cuts to the bone, it hurts. And, for good reason, though. What the problem that they had was this. They could deliver a VM very rapidly. They can put the application on that VM very quickly. But when it came time to firewalls and load balancers and just network settings in general, those were service tickets. They had to go through the traditional ticketing system. The average customer, it takes anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months to provision networking and security today. So it doesn't matter if I can do all these other things really fast. If I'm not solving the network and security problem, well then guess what? I'm still stuck. And this is where we're seeing a lot of investment and attention with customers with our NSX platform, because this is where I can get some automation now. I can start to deliver automated networking and load balancers and do this very quickly. Same thing with my security rule sets now. I can have very simple, agile mobile security that can follow the application container no matter where it goes. Basing security now on the GUID of an application container instead of an IP address. Now, most organizations I work with, their firewall rules are so complex, they might move or redeploy an application or even retire it, and some of the firewall rules remain. Now, their security architecture today has firewall rules. They have no idea what they do, and they're terrified to delete them because they don't know what they do. So they don't know what they might break if they delete them. So these stale rules just stay around and add to the complexity. And organizations like DirecTV, as another example, has leveraged NSX to be the networking backbone behind 3 million subscriber buys for the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. This was the most watched pay-per-view event ever. This was delivered on the heels of VMware NSX and software-defined data center. So this is technology that's proven at massive scale today. Now let's look at future-proofing your cloud. There's lots of things that we're doing here as well. So that includes being able to manage multiple clouds as one. Now you're seeing this with technologies like vRealize automation from a brokering perspective. You're going to see a lot more from us in this space in the coming year. So this is something to really stay tuned on, because we have significant development investments that are ongoing here that's going to really make that multi-cloud management world a lot easier. Providing web-scale private clouds as well, and giving you, again, very fast, agile, hyper-converged infrastructure that lets you do that programmatic compute network storage security underneath any IaaS or PaaS-based solution. Again, giving you that agility that you've been looking for. Extending that data center networking and security to the cloud. There's lots of work we've been doing here across various partners. I mean, you've seen that already with vCloud Air. Rackspace is another example. We recently announced a partnership with IBM Cloud that gives you the full benefits of the VMware SCDC in the IBM Cloud, or formerly called SoftLayer environment. So there's a lot that we're doing here to give you, again, that single pane for networking and security where I can have consistent policy. This has been a big pain point I've seen from a lot of customers that I've worked with, where they said, you know what, we're using multiple clouds today, but the challenge that we have is the way that network and security policy is defined and managed is different with each public cloud provider. So that puts a lot of pressure on the networking and security teams from a management perspective. Now, what are some ways that we're really helping out here? First, something I certainly encourage you to download and take a look at is vSphere integrated containers. We've been moving very quickly in this area, and this is a great way where IT operations can meet developers in the middle. With vSphere integrated containers now, I can allow my ops team to expose a native VMware-based environment to software developers that is talking native Docker APIs. So your developers can use the Docker commands that they know and love and the simplicity of that Docker environment for application packaging and distribution, but now leveraging the security and operational benefits that you get of running on top of a vSphere environment. So this is giving you the best of both worlds. So I don't have to do any rebuilding. I don't have to do any re-architecture. Nothing like that. I continue to leverage my existing skill sets and my existing tools, and my developers are able to work in the environment that they like. So again, this is, when we start talking about being practical in terms of DevOps, it's not developers forcing IT to come completely around and support all of their architectures. If they're trying to build their own infrastructure solutions, it's not IT saying you have to be on our standard or we won't support you. It's meeting in the middle. Say, look, here's your API. Go use it. Have fun. We're taking care of everything else, and we're going to make sure that you're staying in compliance. If we go a step further, I encourage you to go out to GitHub and take a look at our Photon controller code, which is there today. This is allowing you to go even beyond the traditional VMware environment, where you say, okay, you know what? I like VMware-based management and VMware solutions, but if I'm going to pure stateless containers, well then, you know what? I don't need all of the benefits of a vSphere hypervisor. I don't need high availability. I don't need vMotion. I don't need storage vMotion. So I don't want to run all those on a hypervisor using services that I don't need anymore. So the Photon Machine Hypervisor takes all that out. Gives you an agile hypervisor that allows you to spin up new VMs or container environments in a matter of seconds. And again, is managed by that open source Photon controller, which gives you that great API management plane to sit above that. So there's quite a bit of work that we're doing here, including collaboration with Cloud Foundry to allow Cloud Foundry to run on this as well. Now, when we think about public cloud and where VMware is going here, you saw some of this already in Pat's session earlier. Just want to spend a little bit more time on this. A lot of my time over the past several months has been spent with various CIOs, CTOs, architects, and directors across all of our customer segments, sharing with them the strategy and getting some of their feedback. And ultimately, here's what we're after here. You're going to hear from vendors that are going to tell you that they're going to give you a single pane of glass for all things cloud management. And to that I say, go ahead and try. I don't really believe that that's how the world's going to wind up. I'm going to have, just like how I have with databases today, I don't have a database administrator. I have a SQL DBA. I have an Oracle DBA. The technologies are too complex to just have a unified solution that's just doing, or a unified set of skills that can address all of these. It's the same thing with cloud providers. I'm going to have some specialized folks that are working on Amazon for me. I'm going to have some specialized folks working on Azure as well. My VMware team managing on-prem solutions in vCloud Air as other examples. Now, that's okay. So some of that low-level aspects of management, that's just how it's going to be. Think about heterogeneous virtualization tools as another example. I don't have a tool that I'm truly using that can do everything across all virtualization hypervisors. I still use vCenter with VMware. I still use other tools for other hypervisors. We centralize a lot of processes using vRealize automation as an example for brokering and some of your day one operations. But some of your day two and beyond, ultimately you have to do some of that at a lower level, and you're going to have some specialized skill sets there. But here's the thing. When we think about multiple clouds, there are areas that we do have in common, like having a consistent network and security fabric that transitions multiple clouds. Right? That's very compelling. So if I do redeploy applications or need applications to run anywhere else, I can continue to leverage my existing virtualized network footprint. I can have my security rule sets follow those applications across multiple clouds as well. And when we start to lay out this type of plane, we can start doing some pretty exciting things around encryption as well at that time. Having a consistent broker, so I can have that centralized broker that can allow me to, again, provision across multiple clouds, not just from some type of graphical interface, but also ultimately also from an API set. So giving you brokering now, as well as a consistent networking fabric, having a consistent storage and data management fabric across clouds. Right? These are other things where you're going to see some considerable value. Finally, having governance and chargeback accounting is another example. So I really understand what the costing is across multiple clouds, and having a policy engine at that broker that's able to make very intelligent decisions on where workloads should go based on things such as cost, perhaps SLA, perhaps compliance requirements, or perhaps even things like latency between application tiers. Ultimately, for a lot of organizations, we want to get to a point where policy is determining where applications go, not people. The sticker on my laptop shouldn't dictate where an application lands. It should be things like, where do I get the best licensing value? Or where do other parts of this application tier exist so that it makes sense that I co-locate them in the same data center or same cloud environment? I need a higher order of intelligence to do this, and this is a lot of the work that VMware is working on, and you'll be able to see a lot of this at VMworld this year. Now finally, when we look at safeguarding our brand and providing trust, we have to do lots of things here too, such as reinforcing the perimeter, which is how we've gone about doing things in the past, or simply building a stronger core. This gets back to the point I said earlier. That perimeter contains firewall rules that we have no idea what they do, but again, we don't want to delete them because we have no idea what they do. We don't want to cause any type of outage or downtime, so they stay. That is just not a scalable security architecture in the cloud and mobile era. So what do we look to do here? Manage end-user devices securely. Again, I can do this with VMware Identity Manager, giving me centralization in terms of security controls and central policy across that. Securing my data and application access as well. This is where microsegmentation comes in. And an easy way to think about the microsegmentation capabilities that you get with NSX is this. With NSX, I'm effectively getting the capability to have a dedicated DMZ for every application in my data center, or even for every desktop in my VDI environment today. That's pretty powerful. I could never have done something like that in the physical world. I just wouldn't have enough rack space or enough data center space to even do that. And the costing would be enormous to try something like that. With microsegmentation, this all changes. I have a dedicated stateful firewall distributed and attached to any application in my data center. It's huge. I can leverage solutions also from a variety of VMware partners to help me integrate with some of my existing solutions. So this isn't a forklift replacement. I can simply start small. I can get some automation in my lab and then start picking maybe one application that can be some quick value from a security perspective. Oftentimes for a lot of customers that's VDI. With a virtual desktop environment, I'm able to leverage microsegmentation to prevent some of my most common security threats. So what do I mean by that? Think about how a lot of times you get security incidents today. They start not with some type of external attack, right, or denial of service. That does happen, but oftentimes it's going to be simply a phishing attack or some type of social engineering attack that lands malware on a desktop. So now when I start leveraging microsegmentation around virtual desktops, even if a desktop is compromised, I can tightly control what it can and cannot do. So even if that compromise tried to disable host-based security, it doesn't matter because that security is external to the desktop operating system. It gives you a level of granularity around your desktops that you've just never had in the past. So again, I can get this ubiquitous enforcement and universal control for microsegmentation. And like I said previously, this is something that we're working on across not just multiple data centers today. You see it with many of our service provider partners, such as IBM Cloud. You see this on vCloud Air. And again, like I said before, this is even a capability we demonstrated last year at VMworld is extending out to other service providers such as Amazon Web Services. So this is an area that we're very devoted to in terms of really accelerating this innovation. And what you want to think about is this. You might say, again, this seems like pretty overwhelming step for me. But remember, you can start small. Having a lab environment that gives you firewalls and load balancers and networking automatically provisioned for your software developers alongside your application containers and the application stacks, right, using vRealize automation blueprints, that's a huge win just for the IT organization. You're on par from an agility perspective for all your core infrastructures with any public cloud provider out there. That lets you learn some of those skill sets now, and then I can just start one application at a time, microsegment that one application, get your quick win, and then over time I can steadily start to evolve this to leverage more applications in my data center. Now, as you see here, we have lots of customers that are also using this technology, and today we have more than 1,200 customers leveraging NSX and a very large ecosystem of partners, as you can see on the slide as well. Government contractors such as SAIC, as another example, also leverage NSX to improve security, and we're seeing this across a vast array of federal agencies as well. Okay, we've covered a lot here in terms of where VMware is going on the innovation side and things we're doing and practical steps you can take to start to move forward. So again, we're committed to providing ability to access applications from any device, providing support and great ways to onboard any type of new application, whether that's a traditional or cloud-native application. You're providing a common management and networking fabric, as well as having intrinsic security that's native to the stack that allows you to operate across multiple clouds. We don't have to be everything to everyone. What we're looking to do is to solve the common problems that you have operating across multiple data centers and multiple clouds and making your life easy. Taking some of those challenges off your plate so you can focus on innovation and focus on business differentiation. And that should be your theme as you go forward and you're even making product decisions going into the future here. If something's not giving me better speed or better agility, it's not giving me business differentiation, I have to decide if that's even the right technical architecture decision going forward. And we don't simply want to upgrade for the sake of upgrading. So I've covered quite a bit here in terms of taking that next step in the software-defined world. Making sure that you're ready to mobilize everything. Modernizing your applications. Again, like I said before, the PaaS vendors are great partners of VMware because we're solving problems that they don't want to solve. I'm not going to find a PaaS company that wants to write their own software-defined networking stack. Between Nicira and VMware, this has been more than a 10-year journey to get software-defined networking to where we have it today. This is not something that the PaaS companies want to take on, so this is a natural intersection between what VMware is doing and then what a company such as like a Pivotal or Docker are doing or Microsoft and others. Again, rethinking cybersecurity with NSX microsegmentation. This gives you a way to finally get out of that old way of looking at security. Again, certain things were great in the 90s, right? We don't need fanny packs anymore, and we certainly don't need traditional DMZs and things like that either. There's just a better way to do security, and it's really time to start taking a look at these technologies. So just to wrap up with a few closing thoughts. Again, obsess over speed. If things aren't making me faster, if they're not making me a more efficient organization, then start to say, why am I doing it? Isn't there better ways to spend my time? Let me take some of those things and automate them off my plate so I can focus on more important things. I don't need to be sitting at a command line interface or just any type of interface working on, network routes or firewall rules or basic things and just sitting there going through my ticket backlog. Let me automate that. let me focus on spending my day job researching emerging security threats and how that I can be more responsive to those threats using other automation technologies. That's more exciting than, closing service tickets all day. So again, think differently about how we can do these things. And to that end, focus on differentiation. The things that make my business faster, the things that get my business more connected to the customer, these are the things that I want to be doing. If things are commodity IT in the sense that they don't differentiate your business, look for hyper-converged solutions. Look for more integrated, automated solutions that can take those off your plate. We still get to be builders in IT, but we should be using bigger building blocks. It just makes sense. Finally, look to meet developers halfway. We don't have to say, hey, look, if you don't use my portal or do things my way, then I'm not going to support you. No, that doesn't work anymore. Developers are our customer when we're talking about IT operations. Let's meet them in the middle. Things like vSphere integrated containers is a great way to do that. You want to build Docker environments? Great. Hey, guess what? I have a Docker API support for you right here. It just goes right into the existing environment we already have. We're going to take care of all the management and compliance stuff for you, developers. You don't even have to worry about it. You're making their lives easier, and that's simply a model that they're definitely going to embrace. Thinking about differently ways to automate discovery of new objects rather than saying, okay, if you don't go through my portal, you're not supported. There's lots of great things that we're doing there as well on the innovation side to help you to discover, bring things into compliance, and really operate in a true DevOps environment. Again, DevOps doesn't mean that it has to be all dev or all ops making the decisions. It just means we have to be smarter to meet in the middle. And when customers don't do things our prescribed way, it doesn't mean that they're bad customers. It just means they have different behavior. And rather than just exclude them or say unsupported, let's find a way to exist with them or coexist and help support them even when they don't use some traditional tools. Make sure you're choosing some of the right partners for your journey as you go forward. We certainly think VMware should be one of them, and I hope you do too. You see our long list of solution partners that we have and technology partners. We're going to continue to do quite a bit across our entire partner organization to give you lots of choices in terms of how you can build and skin some of your technical solutions. Now, I'm just kicking off the start of vForum here. So again, look at the agenda. We have lots of different breakout solutions. We have 8 different hands-on labs. You can look across our exhibit hall as well. We have lots of different content, whether it's networking and security. You look at end-user computing. You look at management, vCloud Air. Again, there's quite a bit to do here today, so I really encourage you to take full advantage of this online experience and attend all of these sessions, ask questions, interact with your peers. I certainly hope to see you live at some of the VMware events around the world in the future. Thank you very much.